KTN News. Get the whole story.
Welcome back. You're still watching Newsline. And our focus today has been the ongoing voter registration exercise that kicked off yesterday and will continue for the next 1 month countrywide. The IEBC hoping to net at least 6 million fresh voters. Remember, this is a group that was probably born after the 2002 elections, after the inauguration of Kenya's third president, Mwai Kibaki. And this is a fully untested voting bloc. Tonight, to help us discuss this and understand it better from the political angle, we are very privileged to have the Chief Administrative Secretary in charge of Public Service and Gender, Beatrice Elachi. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Next to Madam Elachi, we do have a former senator for Kakamega County, also an aspiring governor, Boni Halwale, the bullfighter. It's good to have you in studio.
Yeah, although it's very late in the night.
Don't worry.
Am I doze on camera?
Yeah, no. This is when we get to have these serious discussions. Because we've been having this discussion, and earlier on I had hosted one official from the IEBC, the county election manager for Nairobi, which is the biggest county, the biggest single county in as far as registered voters is concerned, 2.25 million voters. But we are hoping that probably, according to him, this ongoing registration exercise could net at least 500,000 more voters for Nairobi. For Kakamega, the numbers could be different, 171,000 according to the county election manager there. And hopefully, if at all there's a second phase of registration, probably net another 300,000. Now, these are huge numbers we're talking about, and we can see the excitement from politicians already. Yesterday, we had a group of politicians from Mount Kenya under the Unite Mount Kenya Forum talking about 3 million new voters from Mount Kenya out of the 6 million. Whether those numbers add up or not is something else, but this excitement, is it valid that simply because we have a new chunk of voters, then as a politician, you get excited? And I'm talking to you as politicians because I know and I understand that even Madam CAS here is a potential candidate come August 9th next year. Let's start with you, Madam.
Yes.
Are you excited by the new numbers?
I wouldn't say I'm excited. I would say your vote counts. I would say it is your responsibility at the age of 18 to have your identification card, but also to want to see a better Kenya for you. It's your future. And when we say that, people tend to think we politicians are saying for the sake of the vote. No, we are saying because that's what brings in good governance. That's what can transform Kenya. That's what can change Kenya. Instead of, and I know I'm talking to our children who are the millennials, and we are saying they are fantastic keyboard warriors. But this time round, we want them to walk into a polling station and take the vote. For Nairobi, I would say you can even get 1 million, but I know many people are also transferring their votes from Nairobi to upcountry.
Yes.
This is because of today, when you look at the lifestyle and the challenges people are facing, and the high life of really just looking for a job with COVID that has come and closed many jobs. I think many people feel that it's better now to go back home and maybe they'll be better and have a better life there. So I'm hoping as they go back to the rural, they are also going to take the vote and prepare to be part of that county, to build that county.
Okay. Yeah. But you seem to indicate that politicians are not necessarily excited about these new numbers. But well, let's be honest, politics is a game of numbers.
Oh, yes, but then it depends. You know, there will be a politician who will be excited of the numbers. There will be one who will be praying they should not even come out to take the vote because it will tilt his vote. So it depends. But for me, I would want to see even 1 million coming out of Nairobi because when you look at the census of 2017, when going up, I think the census are telling us very well that, one, we have a high number. We can possibly even get 10 million new voters when you look at the census. 10 million.
Okay, there are challenges, but before we get to the challenges of getting these new voters, are you excited as a politician, Senator, that if at all you get the 300, 400,000 new voters, a very young, untested voting bloc in Kakamega, that could definitely tilt the scales for you?
Yes, I am very, very excited. For the reason that the voters I appeal to most are the youth, followed by the women. When, for example, I call for an impromptu bullfighting function at Marinya Stadium, I quickly pull 30,000 people without spending a single cent.
Mostly
and
youth.
Usually they are the youth. So if we can get them to vote, to register and eventually vote, it is a very big plus for democracy.
Yes.
Now, even as we talk about the numbers, we must educate our youth that it is important to vote. The rent you pay in Kaongwane, the price you pay for commodities, including foodstuffs, the bus fare you pay from Kibra to town is determined by politicians, including the cost of the medicines that you consume is determined by politicians. So people must participate in choosing those politicians so that people who have the technical know-how to speak to those critical things that affect our lives, as I have said above, are the ones in office. Already for the last 10 years, since the introduction of the new constitution, we have seen the disaster of electing people who are not competent. We have lost Nairobi, for example. Nairobi is now militarized simply because the politicians couldn't get it right. I'm not having the speaker on mind when I say this. I am having the other players who would have actually stopped the takeover of a civilian function by the military. And the Senate went to sleep. The National Assembly went to sleep. They are the houses in Nairobi that would have saved the county government of Nairobi.
Okay, interestingly, you talk about the fact that the younger voter in Kenya needs more education.
Yes.
But you're talking about a different kind of voter here that has never voted before, has never taken part in campaigns before, has only been watching this on TV. Probably the only election they've seen was 2013, watching it on TV, 2017, watching it on TV. 6 million potentially new voters who will be casting their ballot for the very first time. But historically, we've seen the kind of apathetic approach that we get from the Kenyan youth when it comes to elections. Yes, when you call for a rally, they will show up. When it comes to collecting IDs, they are reluctant. Even if they get to register now, how sure are we that they will actually translate into actual votes?
You see, the most challenging part of our young people is today, if you walk to any DC's office, the ID cards that are lying there, it means now the politicians are going to take it as their responsibility, first to take the ID, go with the chief to look for this young person who decided he wants an ID, and give the ID. So it means, again, you'll have to mobilize this young person to come and take the vote. Now, the day of the voting is what we need to be very aggressive with also. How do you mobilize people to come out to vote? And so that is, but it's a lifestyle of our young people. In fact, the best would have been, if we want to help young people to vote in this country, we needed to have digitized the way it's done in America. You will find, because they believe on platforms. And so if you...
Digital online platforms.
Yes. If you digitize and say you can vote in a digital manner, then you will see a massive number of young people coming out. But there are also, we have to agree, there are some things we have done that they feel very disappointed. And they are asking themselves, why would I come out and vote? But we are saying, and I am saying as a mother, come out and take that vote. That vote counts. It counts for your future, it counts for your fuel, it counts for everything that my senator is saying here, your hospital, every bill that you have, that vote counts. With our new constitution, our constitution today is an American, I always say it's a similar to an American constitution. And therefore it is for you to bring in a government that will listen to what you need, that will transform your lives, that will agree to work together with you as partners, and more importantly, that will understand the lifestyle that you would wish to see.
Yes.
Yes.
But with this kind of excitement by politicians, do you see it translating into an attempt to actually help the IEBC that is already complaining about being underfunded? So therefore they say they're not able to undertake some of these tasks, including voter education. Do you think the politician who's already excited by the new numbers will take it upon himself to actually educate any 18-year-old who has never voted to actually direct their minds towards voting? Is it something that you as a politician feel it's a priority for you, surely?
I don't want to look like I came here to criticize members of parliament and senators, but I know they could do more. They could do more to this extent. Beatrice, you've spoken to the issue of those IDs that are lying idle. Something has happened. The advent of mobile telephony and the fact that inside the phone you can do transfer of money. Now, most youth who used to think an ID was not important are realizing for you to be enlisted as an M-Pesa, as somebody who can transmit money, you must have an ID. So that increasingly, now more youth are deliberately looking for those IDs so that they can also enjoy the money transfer. Now, upon realizing that, members of parliament should move. It is not too late. They should go and ensure that the registration of a youth to have an ID automatically makes him a voter. I don't see any benefit of doing a round of giving people IDs and then do another round of registering people as voters. That can be a one-stop, so that the moment you have your ID, automatically you've become a voter.
And that would be the ideal situation.
Yeah. In fact, you're calling it ideal for nothing. It is just something which is doable.
Yes.
You just say in the law, voters are people who are ID holders.
Yes.
The second thing is that now that we know and we are agreed that voting is very important, what's wrong with making voting a civic duty? That people must know that on voting day,
it becomes compulsory for every Kenyan.
People should go and participate. It's a civic duty. There will be a bit of default, but voter turnout will be very close to 90–95%.
But we're looking, your suggestion is good and ideal.
Yeah,
but
it's very ideal. We had said we do it with BPI, they refused.
chances are very high that
come
that
and
will
now
not
say
happen.
it's here again.
So
because the law has to change and
Yes.
Parliament has to give us that law. Make it a civic duty.
Do you see the 12th Parliament going in that direction, trying
They
to attempt
have not
to change
been
all those
able to
things?
give us most of the things that Senator
Yes.
is saying.
Yeah.
So it will be very difficult to even allow. I have said politicians also fear numbers. As much as they are looking for the numbers, it is us, the new ones, who want to see more new voters,
Yes.
because we believe the new ones can believe in you. But the ones who have been there for like 10 years, 15 years, 20, and you're trying to bring in a bracket of, there are guys in Parliament who have been there for 15 years, 20 years. They will not want to see new ones because they know this is the one that is coming to remove them. So they have that fear in them.
The other issue is the fact that an 18-year-old in 2021 is less likely to go the tribal way when it comes to thinking politically. Do you agree with that? And if at all, do you think that this, if at all there are 6 million of them who are not thinking tribe when it comes to an election, that it could actually change the game? Senator.
Thinking tribe is not very inspiring to the youth. And I speak like a father who has some youth. I have got 3 new voters in my family.
Yes.
3 of them. The
Already
issue-
registered.
Yes, because of where they come from.
They must
They got
register.
the idea, it's automatic. Yeah,
registered,
yeah. So the issue of tribe does not inspire them. On my part, for example, why it is even easier, not all my wives are lawyers.
Okay.
So it doesn't
It
inspire,
helps the situation.
Yeah, it helps the situation quite a lot. Number 2, given the formation that I belong to, political formation, the agenda we are selling to the young voters is that avoid people who are using tactics of ethnic mobilization to get you to either vote or to get you to vote for their preferred candidates. That sits very well for us because at the Hustler movement, we are not making use of tribal kingpins. But our opponents have a very big problem. They have to satisfy the egos of Kalonzo, Mudavadi, Wetangula, Raila.
But Senator,
and all
I've
that.
seen you at
So
platforms talking about the same thing about Western Kenya coming together and voting as a bloc in a particular direction. Do you want to
Yes.
say that is wrong?
No, it is not wrong, but when you use it as if the moment one person from your community sits at the national table, then you miss the point completely. Instead, us in the Hustler movement, what we are doing is we are mobilizing around counties. We want to say that at least every county should feel adequately represented in government, and there are enough positions to take care of that, key positions both in the cabinet and in the civil service at the higher level of principal secretaries and so on. So I'm happy that 6 million people are coming to vote. They will not vote for a man simply because, or woman because he comes from their tribe.
Yes, on this tribe issue, Madam CAS, do you probably you're more interested in Nairobi, but even here, people still vote along tribal lines in Nairobi. Do you think that moving, because out of 19 million voters, the number of votes, the people who actually turned out to vote last election was about 10, 11 million. This time, if it goes to 25 million, probably 15 million will turn out to vote. 3 million new voters will actually cast their ballot. That is enough to tilt the scales.
Yes.
If at all we have 3 million who are not voting along tribal lines, do you think that is enough to change the game?
Well, how I pray that we can tilt and change the game without our tribals. Because some of us who are from, a mother is a Kikuyu, your father is a Luya, we face the same challenge. But then the most important thing, we should agree, even if we do it per county, they will still look, it's something that has embedded in us. It's a culture. And that culture, it is young people who have to change this culture. But anyone who has been within the game and who has voted, you will wake up in the morning from when you're moving with your parents to go and vote. Definitely, you can go and change, yes, the person you would love, but you will find in the end, we are just as tribal as we will want to say.
So parents still do have a lot of influence
yes,
over
they
this
do.
negotiation.
Don't be like, they do have.
Yes.
But then young people are also very open nowadays. They will say, because I remember in 2017, I had my nieces, they would tell me, as we are even going to vote for Miguna, because they believe in issues, which is the most important thing, that you believe in a leader with issues. But then at the same time, we cannot run away. That is why Central Province will say, we are coming as the Central Province. Western, we shall say the same. Already we've gone tribal the moment you start that way. Nyanza will say the same. That's why, in fact, right now we are more tribal because everyone has gone to look for a party.
Yes.
And so those parties, what are they? They're already tribal because this is a party of my region, that's a party of your region, this is a party of your region. As much as my senator will say the Hustler Nation, I will tell them the Hustler Nation where they start from, which is Rift Valley, you cannot even step in. Yes, they will tell you this is our base, and it starts, the block goes to this. So we are tribal. We must accept that. What we must pray is young people come out and register. If we get 8 million of them, they tilt.
So we just leave it to prayer because you say the only thing we can do is
you can't leave it to prayer. That's what I'm saying. It has to be actionable, but young people must actionize it. We cannot say, for us, if we're coming from Western, but you see, at the same time, when the cake is put on the table, as much as we're saying we don't look at our regions, you'll end up asking, why is it that this county, this region, we don't have a leader in this?
Yes.
Why is it that in this county we have 10 of them and only one? I mean, we have worked within the government today. When I look at the CSs in government, let's say, for example, from Western, who is only there is Eugene and Amina. And when you go to Luyas, they will tell you Eugene is the one who is the Luya.
But
They will start clustering my sister.
And these are facts that you cannot run away from.
Of course. and they will say, how come these other ones are so many? How come the Kikuyus are so many? You see, so already we are, that's how tribal we
Yes.
are. Why did we become tribal? Is again on how resources devolved into.
Yes.
In fact, with devolution is when we have seen now people appreciating, oh, so Kakamega can receive some money. Oh, so Nyanza can receive, Vihiga can receive. That should now start changing on how we look at things.
Okay.
But to date,
Yes.
oh no.
And the discussion now when it comes to regions or tribe is not necessarily an expectation, or at least in the short term, an expectation of what will happen after the elections. It is the kind of negotiations that are going on now, pre-election. For example, when Mount Kenya come out and say, we expect to beef up our numbers by 3 million fresh voters. It is simply trying to lay a stake so that when they come to the table, they can say, this is what we have bringing to the table. Western Kenya, the same. Do you think that probably they have a say in this? Probably the fact that they're just banding out numbers, 3 million out of 6 million going to Mount Kenya. Do you think they're even serious when they're talking about this?
Is a question of trying to intimidate the other players that we are the ones with the numbers. But the truth be said, I hear my sister Elachi on this issue of the tribal thinking. I have tested it personally. In 2013, we came out very strongly that for the first time our community was having a candidate called Musalia Mudavadi. He ended up being beaten by Raila even in Luya land. So that thing of tribe, careful a little bit. Number two, we've done several by-elections. It's a fact that if UDA was a Rift Valley party, as Beatrice wants people to believe, then we should have gotten nothing in Msambweni. In Msambweni, there are no Kalenjins worth speaking about in terms of numbers. We should have gotten nothing in Kiambaa. But when we were in these two places, and I was right at the front line in campaigning, the youth are actually interested in electing a leader, not a member of their tribe. That is, how do you explain how we won in Msambweni, how we won in Kiambaa, when the candidate of ODM in Msambweni was actually a local, a Mijikenda, and our candidate was a half-caste. In Kiambaa, it was even worse. So, given the demography of the country, we have to speak to what is it that we should do to improve on the Ethanization of politics. To my mind, I see two things. The first one is that we must fight and ensure that we have got strong national parties. The reason why Raila Odinga has remained strong is because he managed to convert ODM right from its inception into a national party. Today, Ruto, who started behind Kalonzo and Musalia, is ahead of them because he benefited from the Jubilee nationalism, which he has transferred to UDA. So that nationalism is helping him.
For a party that's less than 1 year old, you want to say we can call it a national party?
We are very bad. Any opinion poll, any credible opinion poll, including online polls, are confirming that UDA is the most preferred party at the moment.
Across the country.
Yeah, across the country. And if you go to the register of political parties, we've been doing registration drive. We are now the most populous political party as UDA. It's a fact. You can check at the register of political parties.
Okay.
So that is the way to go. let us subject ourselves to national parties. And then the second thing that we must do, if we must remove tribalism from our politics, is we should strengthen devolution. Once money is seen to be going to Kakamega, then the clamor to have Kakamega and Bungoma and Busia and Vihiga and Trans Nzoia thinking as Luyas goes down. They start thinking as Kakamega because that is the unit of empowerment.
Yes.
Strengthen devolution,
Yes.
and strengthen national political
And
parties.
it's interesting that you talk about this and you say once it happens, because it is yet to happen.
Yes,
it is yet to happen.
It is incremental, so to speak.
And therefore, between now and August the 9th,
Yeah.
a lot will not have changed politically. And the fact that we are seeing regional grandstanding and groupings coming out and making demands that because of our numbers, then if at all you want our vote, you have to pick a deputy, or rather a running mate from this group, otherwise we will not vote your way, then the numbers come into play again. We therefore cannot ignore the fact that Mount Kenya are insisting they have more numbers and therefore making a demand on any person, any presidential candidate, that if at all you are to pick a running mate, it has to be from our region.
Well, first of all, just to remind my senator, Musambweni, the candidate, was an independent candidate, an ODM candidate, by the way, a nephew to the deceased who passed on, who was the MP. So their seat is Kiamba, where they are doing their testing on how the party is more popular. But thank God it's popular in Central. As he said very well, they took what was for Jubilee. Meaning, it will be very interesting as they go to the main election. Looking at Central right now with all their parties, small parties, you can end up in a scenario the way Kibaki was in 2007, with less members, but you are president. You can end up in that scenario because of those small parties. But then having said that, Central Province has a right to say they have the numbers. They have the numbers. They have within themselves as Kikuyus 5 million votes. If you add in the Gema vote, which is the Meru, the Raka and Embu vote.
And that's a tribal vote, not necessarily the people who reside around the Mount Kenya.
Yeah, it's a tribal vote. Yeah. I am giving you as per the census. And then they have another 1.7, which will give them to 7 million together. So they have the vote. They have the demands that they want to demand. But I want to also appreciate Western. Western has the vote. In fact, people always wonder, I think the only tribe that does not go very tribal, as Senator says, is Western Province, by the way. We look at a person, we look at issues. But come 2027, Western will be number one. In terms of Luyas, there will be more than the Kikuyus.
In terms of population? In
terms of population, and therefore in terms of their vote, they will still be very high. So we look at both, and we go now to the other regions as they are. When you look at how we vote, let's say in 2017, how we voted. So the Kikuyus, they gave Uhuru.
The Mount Kenya region.
The Mount Kenya region.
Yes.
Gave it to the president. Ukambani, the Kambas will always give Kalonzo a substantive vote of nearly 1 million. In Rift Valley, they gave it to Ruto. In Western, we gave some to Uhuru, but we gave some 80% to ODM, to the Prime Minister. Nyanza, Prime Minister. Coast, Prime Minister, the same. And so when you balance that, you will find each region has an interest of why they vote that way. Northeastern, you will find still ODM would take quite a jump, even in Masai land. Why? And that is why, if you are a presidential candidate, it is time for you to understand what is this interest that drives these people to this side or to this side. For you to now come and say, Nairobi, Tinga took it. Okay. And so, why? Again, the balances of the region.
Yes.
You find that you have Kikuyus are, yes, the highest in Nairobi in terms of their vote. Then you have the Luyas, you have the Luos, you have the Kambas, or either the Kamba, then the Luos, then the rest. And so when they will vote Nairobi, in fact, we vote more when we look at the presidential candidate. Yes. That's how we vote.
It's interesting that we've gone we're back looking at the tribal vote.
Yes, that's how it is.
Yet we're talking about 6 million new voters who will not necessarily, at least we hope, they will not necessarily go that way because these are untested and probably they leave...
the only challenge of the untested voters is that they will still go to the regions. Some will be in Central, some will be in Western Province, Nyanza, Mombasa, and they might go now, they might even look and realize, oh, we have to go to our parties. Okay. So what do we do with that vote?
And probably we could be doing an injustice by just looking at this 6 million new voters nationally. Now, if we go down to the county level, because a lot of the politics will be happening at that level, members of the National Assembly,
County
senators, women representatives, governors, and that's where the interest is, which is not necessarily tribal because they come from that same region. Will these new voters be thinking, what will actually be exciting the new voters there? What, for example, will be exciting the new fresh voters of Kakamega?
You know,
because it will not be the tribe.
I'm happy that you have used this opportunity to apologize to the viewers that we are emphasizing the issue of tribe. The owners of tribe are the old people. And this is why all those people in the BBI handshake group, all of them, they are above 60. That's why all of them.
But their vote is already predetermined. We can actually know where they will vote come next election.
I will insist. You are not going to take my children into primitive thinking of tribes. Yeah?
True.
Yes. The owners of BBI were old people. All of them above, in fact, all of them above 63. Some even almost 80 in the name of Raila Odinga. That's why they were creating 5 positions for them to mobilize their tribes. But as the message you hear us repeating again and again as UDA, that we do not want that kind of mobilization. It is what will inspire the youth. Now, coming to Kakamega, what will inspire people in Kakamega is the candidate who comes with the message of empowerment. There is no empowerment in tribal mobilization. Because a bloc gets elected because he comes from your tribe, comes to Nairobi, starts making money. When it is too much, he takes the money to offshore accounts. All these jokers have those accounts. It's not only Uhuru. All of them have, I know. So, the politics of empowerment of wheelbarrow will go to Kakamega. I'm showing the youth how my thinking will convert into jobs and how my thinking is going to bring money into their juakaris. That is the only thing that is going to separate us in terms of whether you win or you lose. Look, for example, how many governors today, in the last 10 years, Beatrice, on these ones we shall agree with you, how many governors have created jobs that produce for the county economy? If a governor has ever employed people, he has created jobs that only consume from the shareable revenue that comes from Nairobi. So you'll say, okay, I have created a team of youth who put on berets and green uniforms and boots. They are not producing a single cent. They're just consuming the money which is coming from Nairobi. But if you go and create empowerment, for example, in agriculture, as I will in Kakamega, for example, in tourism, as I will in Kakamega, for example, in gold mining, as I will do in Kakamega, I'll create jobs that produce into the economy, not to wait for the money from Nairobi. This thinking is not in the heads of these governors. They are old-fashioned.
Okay.
And Beatrice, what are you doing with those old men? They don't know what they want to do for our youth.
And political rhetoric is good to go with. But
you know, my senator
really
is just pulling me. Now, let me just tell him this. First of all, I want to thank the Prime Minister. At least him, after 2017 and all the conflicts that were coming in, he had something to offer and say, look, we have had issues. Can we look at these issues with the president and see how we bring back Kenya together? For them, they felt, we have moved on. We've gotten the country. It is ours. To hell with these other people who voted. Whether they voted for them or did not vote for them, they didn't care about it. Meaning, in their government, we can still have the same challenges. That whoever will not vote for them, Kenyans, you will suffer. Under this leadership of hustlers, they are saying, if you don't vote for them, you don't vote. But anyway, let me come back to the conversation. I am with these old gold people, because old is gold. And they are looking at the country, knowing very well they are supposed to hand it over to young people. And therefore, for me, you come in and rectify the country where the so-called who still have energy, look at where they've taken us. Look where we are today. They are still in government, but they are telling us we are coming back. What they are coming back to do is coming to finish the country. So we would rather have. Is that the message
you're telling the new voters, the fresh ones?
The fresh ones, yes. It's a message. Look at a leader who will transform this country. A leader who has been in government today, and you can see how Kenya is suffering. Please, your vote must transform the country.
Okay. Yes.
Don't return the country to the days of where you have gone to school and you are being told by my senator here, he is ready to give you in Kakamega a wheelbarrow to go and do agriculture. He should be telling you value addition in your agriculture.
Yes.
It will come with a digital platform that will change that, not a wheelbarrow.
Interestingly, and you've just mentioned what I needed to come to next, the fact that social media, these digital and online platforms are going to be huge in as far as communicating these messages from politicians who've been there for a while, who voted since days of Mlolongo, 1992, 97, 2002, okay, all this time. Some of you have served in the National Assembly or the Senate for quite a number of years.
And the governors want to come back.
The game is changing.
Into the
game is changing. You'll have a new set of 18-year-olds who are born post
millennia.
Yeah, post the Moi era. Yeah. And now you need to convince them. Your mode of communication needs to change. Okay. Yesterday when Facebook and Instagram went down, everything stopped.
Yes.
And that is an indicator of how big this will be coming to the next election. Do you think the politician in Kenya right now, because more or less it's the same people who ran for office back in 2013 and in 2017, do you think they're ready for that?
I'm hoping this new vote can now. And those who have been there in 15 years, it's time to retire. It's time to agree that I've done my best. Let me rest for 5 years. I'll come back. Give another person an opportunity to just come in. He might do better or worse, but let us see a different leadership coming in. Yes. I want to tell women, it is time women should come out and come out to compete to get these positions, especially in the county assemblies. I mean, when you look at the county assemblies, since the promulgation of the Constitution, we have not gone beyond 200 women elected in county assemblies. We end up nominating roughly 650 to 900, which I think time is up. 400 must be elected so that you get the 1/3 and you're able to reduce, and Kenyans are able to feel even that wage bill will come down. Okay. So for me, I want to plead, women, let us come out, let us look at this vote, let us work together with IEBC in partnership to see that young people will come out in large numbers. We agree there will be a change. Not just to vote, but to be part of the process.
And interestingly, as you said, as you suggested that older politicians should retire, Senator Halwale was saying amen in agreement to that.
Yes.
Are you willing that
he gave an opportunity to other young people.
Are you indicating that probably it's time for the likes of yourself to leave
the
field and for this younger politicians, and when I'm saying younger, in the definition of the Kenyan youth is 35 years and below, that probably they would be better placed to convince this new set of voters?
The Constitution of Kenya is very clear. The senior position of running for president, for example, is not for the youth. It is deliberate. Got to be 35 years and above. What Beatrice means is that we politicians must know when to create room for people below us. And we have a wonderful record of the same. I stepped down as the Member of Parliament for Ikolomani to allow a younger person to become MP. I had defeated this guy 3 times. Then I moved to the county. When I ran as senator, I again stepped down and allowed a youth, our governor in Kakamega is a youth, and actually endorsed Malala because I believed somebody else should be given that opportunity. So I'm now fighting it at the governor level. If the people accept me, I will run for that short period, and that will be it. That is the culture we want to promote. I want to agree with Beatrice that we should preach water and drink water. And not the old culture of preaching water when you're taking wine. At UDA, the women are in control of the party. The SG is a woman called Veronica Maina. She's around 40 years old.
Okay.
The executive director is a youth who is 27 years old. People like Kalonzo Musyoka, for example, when he tells you, I believe in empowerment of the youth, and the moment he sees an opportunity for a youth to go to East African Legislative Assembly, he takes his own son. Raila Odinga, when he sees an opportunity for somebody to be taken to the East African Legislative Assembly, he takes his brother who is 85 years old. Those are not people who believe in empowerment of the youth. We have to preach water and drink that water. And I'm very proud of the Deputy President. He has a lot of time for the youth. And don't forget that our candidate in Kiambaa is a young man who is either 29 or 30, thereabout. The same to Msambweni, the candidate we put there was same, a young person. When I see the paid up members, we have a club called the UDA Aspirants Forum. It is a paid up club. The people who are members are the youth. Okay. We have no time for aged people. And now on the issue you raised about telephony, just Beatrice, before you take it from me.
Yes.
Look, Beatrice, why are people misunderstanding the wheelbarrow? The wheelbarrow will always be there. The wheelbarrow is the symbol of the dignity of labor. Even if I digitalize dairy farming in my home, and I have some, even if I digitalize, I will still need a wheelbarrow to go and lift. And I'm Kokoteni to go and lift the Napier grass.
I think my question was on the way politicians will communicate these messages, whether about the wheelbarrow or about empowerment of the youth, because the problem has been, and since time immemorial, that during election time, the youth empowerment and to some extent even women empowerment, parties pay lip service to them. And you've talked about YK92, Youth for Kanu. There's always an agenda for every party that has some clout to have some grouping of the youth. As we wrap up this discussion, which of your parties really is going beyond paying lip service to the youth, because that will count in actually attracting the 6 million potential new voters?
For me, I would say this, and give credit to Honorable Raila Odinga. Number one, when you look at the age of Sifuna and Tim, who are running the party, they are young people. And one of the things that I appreciate about him, he has given them that responsibility, and he will follow to the latter what they guide him to do. It's not the way, the other way around, where, fine, you have people, but in the end, you will command what you want. No. He will follow and he will listen. That's what we are saying. Be a mentor. And if there's a person who has been a mentor, it is the Prime Minister. You find everyone who has walked a journey with him, he has mentored you and structured you to some place. And to be very honest, he has very many pillars of people he has mentored. I will appreciate him today that is one person we learn from him about social capital. How do you invest in social capital? How do you believe in your friends? I mean, if you ask me today, you will find different pillars, friends of the Prime Minister, either young, at the age of 40, at the age of 50, but when they tell you when they started walking a journey with him, when they were very young. Now, on this other issue of, I am not contesting about the symbol. No. I have a problem when you tell me that in the 21st century, you feel that is what you take to agriculture, while we are saying we want machinery, and if you want to help young people, just allow them to have the incentive of the 7-year bracket that we are bringing in of taxes. Let them bring the machines to be in the farms, the inputs that they need, and industrialize. If we are talking about a country...
Do you think it's a challenge of communication that probably the older politicians are not able to speak a language that this new group
when
of
I
voters
listened to PM yesterday in Garissa, I could see the issues of young people, the way he would want them to move. And I would say, yes, if I'm a parent, yes, I would want to see my young people moving, doing exchange programs within the international corporate world, learning how to live with others. I mean, he named everything that would come in transformation of that young person, knowing very well this is a young person in the 21st century who believes on a gadget.
Okay, but it's one thing to talk about these things on a political platform. Now, when you call rallies and this kind of campaigns, but communicating with a teenager or with an 18, 19, 20-year-old in 2021 is very different. You've talked about your own children, and you know even how to get in touch with them. It's much easier through social media than even speaking to them verbally. But we're still seeing politicians making pronouncements from the rooftops of cars and from political stands. But is that really the way to communicate with this kind of voter? Because we're trying to educate even the older politician that they need to change the tactic probably.
We do as we say. At UDA, we've gone that route. We have appreciated that the social media has now become more powerful. In fact, it is now the alternative media, and I think in 5-10 years' time, social media will be the main media. The big media stations, KTN and Citizen and NTV, have not been very friendly to us and our presidential candidate. We have ignored you. Not you. We have ignored you, and we've gone to our people through social media. If you look at the main players, and you can check on social media very quickly, at the main players in UDA, we all have very powerful Twitter and Facebook handles that ranges between 1 million to 4 million followers. So we go to our people directly. The deputy president hardly addresses the media, but he communicates to these people through the social media platform. Secondly, when we were currently, when we are doing the registration of members, we are doing it online. And the people who are doing it for us for free are the youth. We have as 44,000 youth. And we have created one portal, and that portal sometimes crashes because they keep on feeding information on the registered members. Out of 44 polling stations, there is a polling station manager who keeps on feeding. So we've gone digital. ODM and ANC, they tried to copy us. They tried it for around 3 days. They gave up. They sat with our youth. They saw what we were doing. They could not manage. So I know that where we are going, even the posters that we are printing and billboards, we will not have to do that.
Yes.
You just put up a poster on your phone, and through Facebook, everybody sees your poster and so on and so forth. Unless, of course, the rules change. And is he called Zuckerberg? The name of that young man?
We just hope that he'll keep his platforms.
What is the name of that
Mark
guy?
Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg might refuse that we cannot use his platform to put up a poster.
But let me remind.
As you make your final comments,
yes,
time
let
is
me
up.
just remind Senator, you cannot beat ODM on issues of digital. Even us to believe, they gave us sleepless nights. So you can't come and tell me now you have a magic from Jubilee B, because I won't call them Yuda, I'll just call them Jubilee B. And until now you are, though, if there is a team that gave us sleepless nights, it was ODM on a digital platform in 2017, and they are still there. They haven't changed.
The intellectual property.
Final comments.
My
sister,
for me, I think.
My sister, because I have been in both worlds, I've been in both worlds, ODM and our side, I can assure you.
You're looking at the same person.
The intellectual property
that
was giving you problems is no longer with ODM.
It's where,
it is with the UDA.
No.
And you know them.
No.
Those are final comments.
Guys who went even to Rwanda for intellectual property on ICT were from Luo Nyanza, my friend.
Clearly, this discussion will
I just want to
continue.
say that young people, let us get out. Your vote counts. Get out there, transform this country to a better country with your vote. Thank you.
Final thoughts, Senator?
My final thought is I want to agree with Beatrice that whether you are going to vote for or against a candidate, the best way is to test it using the vote. And it is a tested fact that countries where women participate in election, where youth participate in election, have the best leaders.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Boni Halwale, former Senator Kakamega County, an aspiring governor of the same county, and Chief Administrative Secretary in charge of public service and gender, Beatrice Elachi, and
aspiring MP.
And aspiring MP of Dagoretti North, helping us understand what exactly politicians need to do to attract this untested fresh new voters, a potential 6 million fresh voters on the voters list come August 2022. How exactly will they do? Just before we wrap up, a quick look at tomorrow's edition of The Standard, the front page. And the big headline, an explored Mudavadi factor. Even though President Kenyatta has lately hinted at backing ODM leader Raila Odinga's presidential bid, NC leader Musalia politically remains close to Uhuru, begging the question, what next? Could his be the ace card? Get yourself a copy of The Standard tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for keeping us company. This has been Newsline, and the conversation continues online using the hashtag Newsline at KTN News KE. That's our Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is at Fred Indimuli. On behalf of the entire team behind this broadcast, the first and second part of this broadcast, my name is Fred Indimuli saying good night.